Welcome to RotoWire Fantasy Football Live, back at you as usual, 11 a.m. Eastern. If you missed the show, you can always catch the replay. We're going to get Brandon Kravitz right in today. He's going to got a few work responsibilities to take care of, so we're going to get the waivers, then we'll go through the Monday night wrap-up and all that good stuff. Brandon Kravitz, take it away on the quarterback position.
Yeah, let's start with a guy that I gave out last week, but we got to bring him back into the fold. That is Jake Browning of the Cincinnati Bengals, still readily available out there. This is now back-to-back weeks with stellar outings for him, 275 yards, 3 total touchdowns on Sunday. His matchup this week is a little bit puzzling. The Vikings have been middle of the road against quarterbacks, but they did just pitch a shutout. So the matchup isn't as tasty as the Colts, but he's hot right now, and he's certainly got the weapons to help keep him afloat. And I love the way Joe Flacco is throwing the football. 5 touchdowns total in his last 2 games, 250 yards passing at least in his last 2. This looks like vintage Flacco, and he's doing it in nasty weather, going up against the Chicago defense this weekend that can be had.
Every time this guy comes back, he's throwing 45 passes a game. That blows me away. You'd think, all right, let's protect the old man. Nope, let it rip. They did it with the Jets. How about a running back we could use this week, Brandon?
Yeah, I've just got my eye on one. You know, you got to keep in mind where we are in the fantasy season. For most of us, the fantasy playoffs start this weekend. Do you really want to pick anybody up off the waiver wire that you need to use? Chase Brown is the only readily available running back that I'm trying to add off the waiver wire. And it's not even for my own usage. I think we're at the point in the season, Jim, where you've got to start to play a little bit of defense on the waiver wire. I just don't want anybody using this guy against me. He's provided a very real level of explosiveness for this offense right around the line of scrimmage that's really helping this non-Burrow-led offense. They don't push the ball down the field quite as much. I don't think what we're seeing from him is fluky. 3 catches, 80 yards. We saw this bubbling up a little bit the week prior. So I don't think he's going away. It doesn't mean that it hurts Joe Mixon all that much. They have a 2-headed backfield now, and he's part of it. I don't want to play him, but I don't want to play against him. That's kind of where I am with Chase Brown.
It took 12 weeks with my July best ball shares that are finally paying a couple dividends. Nice. I was really high on him preseason, and obviously Mixon took the big old roll. How about some receivers? How about giving us 3, Brandon?
Okay, well, these aren't going to be the sexiest names in the world, but it's the waiver wire in week 15. Cedric Wilson, Parker Washington, and John Mechie. I'll give you my reasoning on each of these guys. They're not winning your leagues, but if you're desperate or panicked, these might be your guys. Parker Washington, touchdown in back-to-back weeks. I think he needs to be rostered in deeper leagues. John Mechie, 5 targets to Robert Woods, 0. Now, he didn't do anything with them, but they clearly want to get him more involved. I would also look for a sneakier name. Xavier Hutchinson actually outpaced John Mechie in terms of snap percentage. He was at 73. Mechie was at like 48. But Mechie's getting the air yards. So if you're looking for a guy that can be the Tank Dell in this offense, it's probably going to be more likely to be John Mechie, but we haven't seen it yet. Cedric Wilson is the other name that I have on my list here because I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to miss time, but if he does, I think Wilson would get the biggest bump. I was also looking at Braxton Berrios, but that man just does nothing with the ball in his hands. Cedric Wilson, a little bit more excitement there. So this would just be more out of paranoia if that ankle injury worsens over the next couple days.
Hey, people who are paranoid often prosper, so maybe not the worst course of action. Brandon, how about a tight end we can look at? Dig deep for us here.
Yeah, it's dig very deep. You're going to have to scroll for this one. Davis Allen of the LA Rams. The Rams are hoping to get Tyler Higbee back in week 15. If they don't, then Davis Allen is a really interesting play. The middle of the field was wide open for this guy on Sunday, and Stafford just kept finding him. I thought he looked really good, caught 4 or 5 of his targets, 50 yards and a touchdown. The Ravens didn't know what to do with this guy. They were so busy trying to slow down Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, but every defense is going to be like that. So if Higbee doesn't go, I think you could possibly start Davis Allen over some of those guys that are in the 10 to 15 range in terms of tight ends.
And then give us a defense as well, Brandon.
Let's look the way of the Las Vegas Raiders. They have not been a great defense this season by any means, but they did just hold the Vikings to 3 points, 231 yards of total offense. And now they get a backup on a short week. Easton Stick, not all that worried about him. You know Antonio Pierce is dialing up the blitz early and often, and this one could be another top-scoring week for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, my gosh. The show's going to go on, but I'm going to get Brandon out here, so I'm going to let everybody have Brandon tell you everybody where his work is at. I'm sorry, I'm stammering over my words here, and where you can find him. I'm out of sorts. I'm Anchorman. We're off script today.
I know. I threw you off, man.
Man, I'm terrible like that. Go ahead, Brandon. Tell everybody where they can find you and your work, and then I'll continue the show afterwards.
At Brandon Kravitz, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Happy to chat with any of you anytime about the wild world of fantasy football. You can also catch me on the Fantasy Bites podcast 5 days a week, all part of the RotoWire podcast network. I get you in and out every single day, 5 minutes or less of what you need to know in the NFL and NBA.
Brandon, good luck with all your responsibilities. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, thanks. All right, everybody. Welcome to the show. If you like the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button if you're on RotoWire YouTube. Also, RotoWire free trial. No credit card needed. RotoWire.com/Jim. Couple days of free access. See what we're all about. Hopefully you love the team. Now, I see some questions in the chat. I will get to those, and I'll say hello to Ray, Master J, Uncle Ted, Jeff, all in the house. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for hanging with me. If anybody has a question, now, if I see a lineup question, I'm going to answer them at the end. If you have a lineup question, you got to put the opponent down. It's too early in the week. I'm still looking back at week 14. I don't turn the page until either late in the day, Tuesday or Wednesday, because I've got to grind everything from the prior week to give you the best analysis. So again, if you give me opponents, I can help you a little bit with that. But without that, I'm not going to have a clue who they're playing just yet. All right, Monday Night Football. 2 games, 2 upsets. Typical day in the NFL with those upsets. You never know what's going to happen in this league. Let's start out with the Titans. They pull off the 28-27 win. We'll talk about the craziness. I'm probably more on the Dolphins side, but the Titans, look, they did what they needed to do. They took what was given to them. Miami played the soft zone, and when the Titans fell behind, they just screens to Tyjae Spears. Oh, look, we've got our best receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, wide open all over the field. Why don't we get him the ball? And Will Levis has about 327 yards, chasing a lot of that late with those 2 scores in the last 4 minutes. Great for fantasy for them, right? Not many people played Levis. It was a bad matchup, but overall did fine enough. But it was a wonderful game for Hopkins. I just didn't see a world where that was coming. I assume Miami been playing really well on defense. They're getting a pass rush, even though Jalen Phillips is out. The offensive line, the pass blocking has been horrific from the Titans. It just seemed like a perfect storm. That Miami secondary, they've had injuries, but overall, they played through those. I thought at some point, even though I know they play zone and they play sides often, I just thought with this matchup, at some point, Jalen Ramsey would get in Fangio's ear and say, you know what? Let me just eliminate Hopkins. Just take him out. Didn't really happen. So Hopkins just slaughtered him. Great game for Hopkins. Love Hopkins. And certainly if you're leaving him open, he's going to destroy you like every time. So great game there. Derrick Henry, we bet the under on his rushing yards, 34 yards on 17 carries. Kind of saw that one coming. Miami's run defense has been really good, and that's not where their injuries are, but he punches in 2 touchdowns for his fantasy investors. So we certainly love to see the big dog putting up those points for everybody because, look, he'll be gone from the league sooner than later, but man, as long as he's here, let's enjoy him and watch this legend keep playing and doing good things. Chiggy Okonkwo, a floor every week last month or so. 9.6 PPR points, you'll take it. You will definitely take that. If that's what you're looking for and you're starting him, you clearly were. I see Charlene's here. Welcome back. Glad you're here. We'll get the comments toward the end. So the Dolphins, wow. Interesting, right? It seemed like when Tyreek Hill went out with the injury early in the game, and I know he came back, but it really looked like the entire team deflated when he was out. Maybe that's me. Also, we talk about this every week, the subliminal switch. Jeffrey Simmons is out. Who's on the Titans defense, right? Nobody's scared of it. There's no way, in theory, they could have hung with the Dolphins offense, but it's the NFL. And if that subliminal switch in the back of your mind says, oh, we got this one. We're at home. We win big at home every week. We got the Titans coming in. No Jeffrey Simmons. Well, They didn't do well on offense. And they scored 27 points. And if you watch the game, you clearly know this. If you didn't, well, the offense didn't do much. We had the interception return early in the game for the touchdown, the short one. And then we had the bobbled punt inside the 10-yard line by the Titans, a weird special teams misplay. Scores, they score a couple plays later. And then the pitch out to Derrick Henry, bad pitch, ball hits the ground. Dolphins get the ball inside the 20. So their 3 touchdowns either were scored by the defense or had 2 turnovers that they got the ball in the red zone. They couldn't move the ball with any consistency. Oh, yeah, Uncle Ted, yeah, Tyreek Hill would have easily gone over that, but when you miss half the game, yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. So, I mean, what am I going to do there? If I get buried for that one, don't listen to anything I say, because if a player gets hurt in the game, I'm not Nostradamus. Can't tell you a player's not going to finish the game. So can I do that? Yeah, of course. Hill would have 61 yards. He played half a game. He only needed like 105 to cash. So it would have been the easiest over in the world. He could have been open all day against them, but what do you do? Yeah, injuries are part of the game, and you can never predict them. So I won't even say I'm sorry to that one, because guy gets hurt, not my fault. Cannot take any responsibility for that. Mostert had the game. Like last week, we saw Achane play more than Mostert, and it was by a significant amount. But now we see Mostert 64% to 46%. So Mostert had the edge. So really, both of them are going to be heavily involved. I think it's going to be week to week, and I don't know who's going to be able to predict who's going to get the more work each week. Mostert scores the 2 touchdowns. Now, Achane had been seeing significant red zone usage as well. So it's very tricky. You start them both, of course, and there's downside for each. But even Achane, in a game where he had 12 touches, he still got you 81 scrimmage yards, So you can't argue with that. In 5 catches, so you started him. You didn't get the 40-point game or the 30-point game or the 25-point game you wanted, but you still ended up, with, I'm trying to do the PPR math in my head, like 13 points. I don't think anybody says, man, he killed me. Well, it wouldn't have killed you, right? And then Mostert, of course, 96 yards, so he did well. Tua, some misplays, losing his feet. Tennessee brought pressure. Without Simmons, I didn't think they had it in them. The Dolphins line is a mess. I thought without Simmons, it was a wash. I thought they'd be able to be fine there. But Mike Vrabel coaches them up really well. And they hadn't played well on the road all year. This is the first road game they played even decent football in my mind. So give them credit. Give them credit. But Tua did not put the team on his back when they needed him. Now, again, missing Tyreek Hill, he is the straw that serves the drink. Tyreek Hill makes all the mismatches happen. And when he's not on the field, they don't have the leverage. And so hopefully he's got his ankle checked out. Hopefully he's fine. In terms of the season, I don't take much away from this. If Hill ends up being healthy, the Dolphins still haven't beaten anybody, so to speak, but they're still a good team. And if they can get on a roll near the playoffs, that's solid. But if you started Tungo Vailoa hoping for a fantasy win yesterday, he really let you down. And we went over him on the Fallers last week, not as an NFL quarterback, but as a fantasy. He hadn't been putting up those gaudy numbers. And then 240 and 0 touchdowns. He ran for 15. Always gets scared when he runs. Poor guy, just don't want to take a hit to the head after the injuries that he's had. But all that said, we're probably done on this game. But long term, again, all teams in the NFL have had lay the eggs. It always happens. Every good team has happened to. Philly hasn't lost to a bad team. I give them that. I think every other team, now of course I might be missing somebody, but they're like the one who hadn't lost to a bad team. But now the Dolphins are in that mix as well. Giants. So we miss a lot. We always get a lot wrong. And my final comments last night about the game was, I don't have the stones to take the money line on the Giants, but I should. But I definitely was for taking the points. And wow, the Giants pull it out. It looked like they were going to lose when Green Bay scored the late touchdown. DeVito got him right down the field. So the Giants on offense, Saquon Barkley, like we keep telling you, just keep playing him. You no matter what. And it look, he was getting shut down early in the game. The defense was set out to stop him. They were successful. But Barkley gets 23 touches. Eventually, he gets you. Goes over 100 scrimmage yards, the 2 touchdowns, beautiful, gets the ball deep in the red zone. So Barkley, and I know the one play I thought DeVito might have gotten in, but it was marked down inside the 1. Barkley gets an easy touchdown. Great fantasy game for Barkley. And that's why you don't sit him, because there are going to be some weeks where the defense overplaying him is too much. But for the most part, we've seen him. We've seen him win when the defense is gunning for him. That's what makes him a superstar. So in start-sit questions, unless you're in some 8-team league where, it's him and another superstar, maybe an Alvin Kamara or something like that, it's going to be Barkley every time. And I said also, there's no way I could tell you which receiver is going to do well for them if somebody does. There's no way. There's just no rhyme or reason to it. So Hodgins gets a touchdown. Jalen Hyatt only gets 13 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson is the one who goes off. 6 of 7 targets caught, 79 yards. He runs for 36. So really comes out of nowhere. Joanna's in the house. Welcome back. I'm going to be talking up the comments right toward the end of this one. So all that said, the Giants passing game, that's going to be dicey for fantasy. Waller may come back. If he's healthy, look, if Waller comes back, assuming he's healthy, they had been integrating him in the offense before the injury. I wouldn't treat him as a top 5 tight end, but if you don't have one of the very top ones, I would put him back in lineups. And outside of that, that's a Barkley. That's really all the receivers. You just can't trust them week to week. Packers side of the ball. Aaron Jones was ruled out in the morning. He'll be back next week. Now I can say with 99% certainty he'll be back next week. So he'll be back in his customary role, leading this backfield with Dillon taking the back seat. Patrick Taylor filled in nicely. We always talk about this. Taylor has some juice. The change of pace guy, we saw it in the Tyjae Spears. The change of pace guy always has that advantage. Defense plays at a certain intensity and level of speed against the primary guy. When the secondary guy comes in, you can't just flip a switch and say, all right, this guy's in, we're playing faster. Doesn't work that way. And so these runners can take great advantage of their opportunities. So Taylor did a very nice job filling in. He'll go back to the practice squad next week. Eric Jones will be back. Taylor at one point was on the New England practice squad. And then when Jones got hurt, Green Bay signed him off of there. So he'll bounce around practice squads. If somebody gets hurt again, he'll resurface. But that's kind of where his destiny is set for now. Jordan Love. Look, here's the whole thing with Green Bay. The reason I said that I would bet the Giants, I said it was the least analysis I would give you on a game when making a pick. But my line was this. The Packers came off a string of really good play, and they had just beaten the Chiefs. They're a young team. All right, Randy. We'll catch comments at the end. So anyway, the Packers were coming off a big win, and they were playing an inferior opponent. And this was what we call in betting a prime letdown spot. And it just has it written all over. Does it always work? No. But with the young teams that aren't used to doing regular winning, coming off those big victories, it's just a very tough way to get back on track. Well, this is what happens. And that's why, like I said, we didn't have the stones to take the money line on the Giants, but all day long, 5.5 points. It was 6.5 at one point, depending when you took it. But that was one of the ones that I thought made the most. There's no bet that's 100%. 70%, have probability on one maybe, but that was in that 70% range. Anyway, all that said, the receivers, obviously Christian Watson was out. Jaden Reed got 10 targets and 4 rushes. He ends up with 65 yards and a touchdown. So if you're in PPR, wow, you had like 20 points out of Jaden Reed with minimal yards. Like the 8 catches went for 27 yards. He had more yards on the 4 rushing attempts than he did on the 8 receptions. Malik Heath catches the touchdown. That was kind of a kick in the pants for those that were looking for hey, Angelo, glad you're here. So anyway, it was kind of a kick in the shorts when you had Romeo Dobbs, who's been getting a lot of red zone love. And it was like Heath had the 1 touchdown overturned. They went right back to him. So there's that. Overall, the Packers, kind of same thing I said to the Dolphins. All right, grain of salt. It kind of let it go. They've been playing well. young teams lose these games coming off the big wins, they'll be fine. They'll be the team they've been. They've been emerging. It's a bunch of young players all growing together. So I think next week, I think you would start your Packers as you normally would. I don't think you say, all right, well, this is their signs on the wall. I don't think there's any signs on the wall from this. This is just a bad spot. Again, if you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting like and subscribe button. Remember, start sit stream. You're going to be in your fantasy playoffs. Hopefully you made it. That'll be Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll have a DFS show and gambling show on Saturday. We'll have another gambling show on Friday. We'll go over some trending down players. But definitely, if you have missed the shows, catch the replay on RotoWire YouTube. All right, let's go over some risers. Let's see. I can take some comments here real quick. Let me go backwards here. Joanna, Zamir White could be a league winner, scoring 60 points plus in the fantasy playoffs. So if we've heard about Josh Jacobs' knee, I haven't heard anything new. If he's missing time, Zamir White should walk into a role. And we already know that their head coach, Pierce, wants to run the ball and try to play defense. And that formula has had differing levels of success. But yes, Zamir White could walk into a very strong workload. So we'll see what happens here. And Angelo prefers Amir Abdullah to Zamir. Yeah, so Amir Abdullah will get his receptions. He may get, instead of 1 to 2 catches a game or targets, Amir Abdullah may get up to 4 targets, but they're going to need the physical run presence. And so that's kind of what Pierce's MO is. And I think that would be useful there. And then Uncle Ted pointing out Jaden Reed's rushing touchdown, and Randy filling the bench with high upside players. Jalen Hyatt, the prime example. Here's what I'm thinking. Tyrod, I don't know if Tyrod Taylor's going to play. If it's Tommy DeVito, look, DeVito did okay. I'm throwing no shade on Tommy DeVito. I just don't think you could go into a game and count on Jaden Reed. There was a game he did well, but you saw yesterday. So it's going to be there's going to be too many defensive game plans that are going to take certain things away, and DeVito's not going to have the arsenal to be able to attack things that are taken away. So if a team plays a too high shell against them, I don't think he has much of a chance of getting downfield passes to Hyatt. So Hyatt, in theory, if he had Tyrod Taylor, I would think differently of it. If there's word that Taylor's going to be the quarterback, Taylor could tap into that. I don't think we could trust in a fantasy playoff game Hyatt with DeVito. Again, I'm not throwing any shade at DeVito. He's been a real nice story. Lee, opportunity is king in fantasy football. Every year we see players who are nobodies come in and they carry fantasy teams. Chuba Hubbard, seriously. Love him, hate him, whatever. Chuba Hubbard, borderline player, but he's getting volume. Even Rachaad White, I know he's put volume. If they had a real running back on the roster, no offense to anybody that likes Rachaad White, there's a lot of just the guys they get the opportunity. So Zamir White, no, we've not seen him in the NFL. We haven't seen him. Seen him a few carries. But he's a big dude. He's got a decent run blocking offense. The Raiders' offensive line's been good. And the defense still has to worry about Devontae Adams. So volume is king in fantasy football. And we often have to trust these players who either aren't good or we haven't seen them. And we trust them. Now, fantasy playoffs, depending what your roster is, he's depth. But again, volume is volume. And that's crazy to sound, right? So Randy, good one. Yeah, but he's too risky. Let's see. Joanna, you made the playoffs in one of your 3 leagues. Oh, no, I see that. All right, that was the emoji supposed to be on there. But, yeah, well, at least you made it in the 1. Maybe you'll win that title, and then, you know what? You'll forget about the 2 that missed, because that's kind of the nature. You win that title. And then, yep, Uncle Ted loves him to Patrick Taylor, good player. Anthony, you had a dynasty team lose the 6th seed to an 0-13 team that hadn't won since 2021. You know, we went over on the Monday show. A lot of players had down games. And if you caught the wrong combination of those, and we had guys last night, Tua had the bad game. Even Tyreek, he put up some numbers, but he certainly didn't put up Tyreek numbers. I lost out in the Sirius XM host league playoff spot by Tyreek getting hurt, and is what it is. It's injuries. And I know that's terrible, Anthony. And then Jeff Rogers goes Chiefs D against the Patriots or the Browns defense against the Bears. You know what? I'm just going to keep going with the Browns. I'm going to keep going with the Browns. Denzel Ward was supposed to be back last week, and somehow when I was doing the show, they deactivated him, but he's got to be back this week. And if Denzel Ward's back, that whole defense is insane. All right, let's see. Charlene, 12-2. You have a bye. Congratulations. Great job. That bye is huge. When you have one less game to play is massive. Jeff Rogers, you need if you have that question, give me the opponents and I can answer them at the end. All right, and then Master J, you're looking to grab a receiver or running back, Parker Washington, Pickens, Dotson, or Chase Brown. How would I rank them? Coming out of the bye, I probably do put Dotson number one. I do think they get him. They had him going for a while, and then he wasn't. I would put. It's hard to put Pickens number two, but I have to. If you look at his box scores, he actually gets something done most weeks. It's ugly. Chase Brown is 3. He's getting volume, but if he doesn't break that one long run, you're kind of left holding the bag. And I'm going to put Parker Washington 4th. I really think that it was nice what he did. He had the touchdown last week, and the game when Kirk got knocked out, he had a bunch of targets. But I think this offense is really going to become centered around their top players. Evan Engram has really been the one to pop since that happened. So that's the way I prioritize him. All right, let's get and then Antonio Gibson. Yep. Now remember this. I pointed this out on one other show, I believe. Understand this. Gibson got extended work in the Robinson injury game because they were trailing. They were getting blown out. So it was passing game script. Chris Rodriguez played 22% of the snaps. Robinson played 22 before the injury. So they played 44, and then Gibson played a little over 50. That is a very common workload for Gibson when they're trailing. I believe that if we're going to see Brian Robinson out, Chris Rodriguez, I think, directly steps into Robinson's role with one exception. Gibson will get a couple extra targets. He's been getting 5 a game. Those targets could go up to 7 because if there's a passing down, they were trusting Robinson on some of those. However, Chris Rodriguez is not a good receiving back. At least he doesn't project that way. He's more of a hammer. So Gibson gets a bump, but he's not going to step into a 70% workload. Just understand, even in that game, Rodriguez was the one-to-one replacement for Brian Robinson. So just understand that. But yes, Gibson does get a little elevation. All right. And then Randy, is the crazy thing. Henry originally played behind DeMarco Murray. Well, DeMarco Murray had an insane season at some point in his career. I remember it's been a while back. Murray was a great player too. Henry, for whatever reason, Henry didn't get used heavily his first couple of years. It's weird. It's very weird. But yeah, you're right, Lee. They were paying Murray a lot of money, and the economics of football often lends itself to teams making horrible decisions. Good reminder on it, but Murray was making a boatload of cash. All right, quarterback risers, Matthew Stafford. If somehow he happens to be incredibly crazily on a waiver wire, he could be because of the first half of the season. Grab him. He has 10 touchdowns in his last 3 games. I've called McVay a genius all season. What he's done, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, what he's done with Cooper Kupp in his career, he is a genius. He understands the defense that he faced, and he knows how to exploit those. The general defensive modes, he's running that duo downhill style, very effective against the common zone types we're seeing these days. The outside zone run doesn't have the same effectiveness unless you're in a Shanahan system, which not there. But and he's leveraged that passing attack. So Matthew Stafford right now, the yardage hasn't been great, but he did have 279 and 294 in the last 2, and it was 294 against the Ravens on the road in weather. So Matthew Stafford, and they get Washington this week, and Washington much better against the run than the pass. So keep firing up Matthew Stafford. Look, we know how it goes with him. There could be a drop-off at any point, but right now, the way this offense is functioning, Stafford in this year, no Justin Herbert, he's going to be out for a while. He is a QB1 right now. And there are, you know what? I would probably start him over Patrick Mahomes right now. And it's not close. Mahomes, it's name right now. Now in NFL, he's great. We're not questioning that. But fantasy, Fantasy points are not coming. Won't spend much time talking about Brock Purdy, just to say that even though he's not even attempting more than 30 passes a game, he's averaging over right about 300 yards in his last 3 games. He has 9 touchdown passes in those 3 games. And every week, Kyle Shanahan realizes who the mismatches of the defense are. Last week, I was telling you in the show, they're going to get Debo on either Jamal Adams or they're going to get him on Bobby Wagner, and they got him on Adams, and it was a long touchdown. But they have all the weapons who can overtake any deficiency in the defense, and they do not miss the opportunities to take advantage of those. So Brock Purdy is rolling. And look, Jake Browning, Minnesota matchup scary because Minnesota with the blitzes they run and the funky coverages they run. But here's the thing. Browning will run, and Browning can get the ball quickly to Jamar Chase. We saw 2 games ago, pounding Chase with short targets, and all of a sudden he got over deep when they saw a defense play a 1 high safety, and they went over the top, and it's an easy touchdown for Chase. Chase makes it easy for these Jamar Chase. But this is not a great matchup for Jake Browning. But if you're in a 2-quarterback league, just don't expect a ceiling game here. Because Minnesota, again, it's no joke what Brian Flores has done from a coaching perspective for them. Running back risers. Look, we said Chase Brown earlier, and we're going to roll with him. He's averaging 10 touches. He had 105 scrimmage yards, a long screen pass for a touchdown. But look, he was a guy in the best ball leagues in July. I was getting shares of him. Joe Mixon had some legal trouble. We thought he might got let go. He didn't. I just thought Chase Brown coming out of Illinois, I thought he was a good receiver. I thought he had shiftiness as a runner, but really as a change of pace runner, we said earlier in the show, he maximizes those opportunities because Mixon, has the certain pace he plays at, and then Brown is a changeup. It's a great changeup. So, but again, if you need to flex Brown, definitely think about it because, again, the touches are right about 10. That's at that break point where we're saying, okay, we might have something here. Those 3 targets last week, that was a good part of his game. He wasn't targeted in that first game he played a couple weeks ago. Deontay Foreman. I said I did not know all season. I said the Bears should have had Foreman as their number 1 guy. Look, we think NFL guys know their players. They signed him from Carolina. We think they knew what they were getting. It took them forever to figure out what they had with Deontay Foreman. And he has been nothing but solid since 2 years ago, taking over for Derrick Henry when he broke his foot. Last year, taking over when McCaffrey was down, or 2, there was a couple of years. McCaffrey was the first one, I think. Whatever case. McCaffrey got traded. And then Foreman did great. And all he's done, he has to get work. The problem is the first week, they gave him a couple carries. He's that big back. He's got to get in a rhythm. If you give him a couple sporadic carries, he's not doing anything for you. Well, he let in snaps last week at 55 coming out of the bye, and Roschon didn't get a touch until garbage time. He had 28% of the snaps for Roschon. Herbert had a few carries, but it was Foreman, and Foreman had the 3 targets. So now can you trust the Bears week in, week out? No. But I think they've realized, oh my gosh, Foreman is a really good running back, and he needs to be on the field, and he could be a sustainer in the running game. They don't have sustainer with the other running backs. Foreman is a very integral part of what should be a successful offense. And Zeke Elliott. So as long as Stevens is out, last week wasn't much of a surprise. I remember telling somebody to start sit. I think Drew Davenport asked me. I go, well, Zeke, he only gave like 60 yards on the ground. I go, but he'll catch 4 to 6 passes. I think he got 7. And I go, he's got a good chance to score a touchdown. And it all worked out. Well, but that's his role. And they're playing Kansas City. And the run blocking in New England, it was dicey early in the year. As Belichick's teams often do, the offensive line got a little cohesive. Now, the pass blocking is horrible, but the run blocking has gotten really good. So Zeke Elliott, very viable play. And then finally, Rachaad White. Look, whatever I say about him as an NFL player or ability to break tackles, he's doing great. He is phenomenal for fantasy. 100 scrimmage yards in 3 straight games, finding the end zone to regularity, getting the ball at the goal line. And right, again, with so many players underperforming, Rachaad White is an RB1, PPR leagues. He is a top 12 running back. And right now, with the volume he's getting, 17 to 27 touches a game, put him in. He's either going to get it done as a receiver, a runner, or at the goal line. One way or the other, he gets it done. Green Bay's not a bad matchup this week either. All right, a couple of wide receiver risers. I remember there was somebody on socials that pointed out that, well, I was hopeful out of the Chiefs bye they would get Rashee Rice more involved. And he's like, well, I didn't hear from the Chiefs camp, so I'll pass on him. Well, if you passed on him, that was probably a mistake. The first game, it was terrible because Justin Watson saw 11 targets. In the last 3 games, Rashee Rice, 10 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets. Rashee Rice is getting it done. Not the high ceiling games, but 72 and a touchdown last week. 3 weeks ago, 107 and a touchdown. The down game was 8 for 64. A snap share went up to 85% last week. So right now with this specific usage, and look, they have no choice. Kansas City, as they have nobody else to throw the ball to but Kelsey and Rice. They can't trust anybody else. And right now, Rice has to be in that circle of trust. I think if you're saying top 30 receiver, yes, top 30 receiver. The floor is great right now, and I don't see that changing. Not worried about the New England matchup this week. Their coverage has not been great this year. A lot of injuries they've had over the course of the year. Amari Cooper. In the game that he got knocked out with a concussion, he was on pace for over 12 targets. Last game, 14 targets. Joe Flacco's throwing the ball over 40 times. Cooper's his guy. And now I know David Njoku had a better fantasy game, but the 14 targets, caught 7 for 77. Cooper is the man. Runs great routes. He can win at all levels. And Joe Flacco obviously realizes he is an alpha receiver. And Cooper spoke very highly of Flacco when they practiced together. So Cooper should be in the high circle of trust in the fantasy playoffs right now. And just tight end, very quickly before we get you guys out of here soon. And I'll take comments as well. Evan Engram. So he had a floor all year. They were really using him terribly. They were using him on too much horizontal stuff. Well, last week, there was a play lined up as an outside receiver. They got him down the field a little bit more. Oh, my gosh, look at that, 1195 and 2 touchdowns. The prior week, 9 for 82 and a touchdown. With Christian Kirk out, Evan Ingram's function is completely different. And I know Parker Washington plays a slot now. I get it. Evan Engram is a hyper-athletic, middle-of-the-field player who can also be bumped out wide. A versatile, movable chess piece. And defenses are most concerned with Ridley. Evan Engram should have room to roll. The Baltimore matchup this week is not great. Might be a floor game for Engram. But outside of that matchup, Engram being utilized now because he's a pseudo slot receiver along with a movable chess piece, he could be a big linchpin in the fantasy playoffs. And then finally, Cole Kmet. 7 targets each of the last 2 games. Doesn't have a great ceiling. I mean, could he score 2 touchdowns in any week? Yes. But a 5 for 66 and a 7 for 43. If you need somebody to get you flirt with double-digit PPR points, will he get it every week? Not necessarily. But Kmet is really the number 2 in that offense because he's that middle of the field presence they don't have. And that's a real important move for them. All right, let's take some comments here. I'll work my way up from the bottom. Joanna, you've been holding Mason all season. So, yeah. So, my fantasy manager, I had to start him in the Kings Classic League, 14 teams, 3 flexes, a lot of injuries. And McCaffrey had that super long run and he got tackled on the one and he was gassed and he had to come out and Mason cashed in with the touchdown. That was beautiful. That was a thing of beauty. Now, if you have McCaffrey, it wasn't. I had Mason in that one and I had McCaffrey in the league, but I needed the Mason points better. But if Elijah Mitchell, and I did a video last week and it was like players to pick up for the fantasy playoffs. Elijah Mitchell, I go, he's healthy. Oh my gosh, in practice, he got hurt the next day. I think the video popped on Tuesday. I think on Wednesday, he hurt his knee, or I think it was a knee. It's just so Elijah Mitchell. But yes, and if the 49ers have leads in games, Mason will get late work. So he could get up to 10 carries in clock killing mode. And John Rubright says, would I drop Kmet for McBride? Yes. Drop, run. McBride's target share is through the roof. They're moving the ball, and he's their primary red zone guy. Now, could Michael Wilson be a problem with that? I don't think so. Kyler Murray has now had time to develop a chemistry with McBride. While Murray was settling in, Wilson spent a lot of time out. I think McBride is that reliable piece. He's already made that kind of bond with. And look, Think back to the Zach Ertz days. Kyler Murray's done well working with his tight end. McBride is a high floor, high ceiling player, whereas Kmet is a high floor, pray for ceiling. You're welcome, John. Jeff Rogers asks Laporta versus Denver, which is a phenomenal matchup, or McBride against San Francisco. All right. I have to go with Laporta here. It's matchup based. McBride is a weapon. I have to think Fred Warner will be on him a good deal of the time. Now, if your gut says McBride, it's a fantasy playoffs. You got to ride your gut. But Laporta could not ask for a better matchup here. And I will ride with Laporta in this one. But, man, it's really hard to sit McBride these days. Charlene, Elijah Mitchell is good when he gets injured. Yep, exactly. Matt, let's see what you got here. 2 moves left for the playoffs. Transaction have a bunch of injuries. Kyler, your only healthy quarterback starting San Francisco. Would I? Yes. Pick up Stafford. Like I said, can he implode? Yes, but right now that offense, and they're playing Washington, and Washington traded away their 2 pass rushers a month and a half ago, and so now Stafford should be protected, and Washington's good against the run still. They're still good against the run. Those defensive tackles, Payne and Allen, just really, really good stuff. So, yes. So, I would definitely make that move. Jeff Rogers, Keenan Allen versus the Raiders, or DK against San Francisco. I think DK just played San Francisco this week. I'm not sure. They're playing Philly this week, I believe, on Monday night. I think they're playing Philly. Keenan Allen obviously will still retain a floor. Easton Stick will throw a lot of short past him. And if the Raiders bring pressure, he'll be an outlet. I don't know that Allen has the big ceiling here. DK's your boom bust play. Because, and I don't know if Geno Smith's going to play. And there's a problem there. Because you got a Thursday game with Keenan Allen. Because of Geno is said to have a 2-week injury. And I know Drew Lock got him the ball. Philly might put a lot of quick pressure on him. And Bradbury's actually, he hasn't been playing well this year, but Bradbury's actually a good matchup for Metcalf. Because it's a Thursday game and I don't know Geno's status because of the parent 2-week injury, I'd give Keenan Allen the edge in the Thursday night game. Lee, what do you got here? Let's see. Herbert replacement, 2-quarterback league. Stick, Mullins, Zach Wilson, all on waivers. Zach Wilson, of course, worries me because he had that week last week, but man, talk about a guy where it's probably not going to be sticky, right? So if we're sticky, I go to Easton Stick. But the Raiders, and I think Brandon Kravitz said this, and I agree with him, I think that they're going to send the house at him. And I think it's going to be problematic. And the Raiders are not a bad defense this year. Mullins, if Mullins is named the starter, and if Jefferson plays, I'd give Mullins the edge. But we have a lot of uncertainty right now. But obviously, if Jefferson's not back, I might go to Zach Wilson. Oof. All right, let's see what else. Angelo, Stafford's on the waiver wire in 2 of your 10-team leagues. Yeah, I would add him. I would definitely add him right now. Marcos, morning to you as well. You have Fields. What I play in this week? Again, I need opponents at this point. They're playing Cleveland. Oof. You know what? Fields is a total boom bust in this one because I don't know if the run game gets going. They have such a good collection of pass rushers, and they're athletic. Fields might not get going on the ground here. And the press coverage, and last week, Denzel Ward was supposed to be back. He didn't play. He has to be back this week. I would go with Stafford. Flying high in a great matchup. Randy, Keenan Allen, like I said, he's a floor play now. He should still get 6 to 8 catches. We're looking at probably 50 to 60 yards, maybe 70. Odds of a touchdown are real low. I don't think you're going to score many points. And I think we got any more here? Let's see. Charlene goes Pittman and Waddle and Wandale. Pittman and Wandale. Yep. Master J, would I start Dotson over JSN? Again, I don't know opponents here. I'm not at that point. I'm still looking back at last week. Dotson against the Rams is a great matchup. I'll tell you that. Jackson Smith and Jigba, we're going to have Geno Smith. That's a Monday night game. So if you don't have clarity by then, I would start Dotson. If Geno Smith plays, I would start JSN. So if the word is that Geno's definitely playing, it's JSN, especially in that matchup against Philly. Middle of the field, very, very fruitful. Otherwise, I go with Dotson. CEH, look, it was a nice game he had. I'll give him that. I'm trying to think of who they're playing. They're playing, New England. That's a bad one for him. New England's like, depending what metric you're looking at, they're top 2 run defense. And they shut down a really good Pittsburgh rushing attack. Pittsburgh's been running well. Not in that game. I wouldn't trust CEH there. Master J. Trevor Lawrence, Murray, Fields, they all have tough matchups. How would I rank them? Tough to trust Murray against the 49ers. Trevor Lawrence looked fine. I don't know what the deal with that injury was. Whatever it was not what they said it was. He was running and he looked normal. There were a couple passes where it looked like his footwork was off a little bit. He looked fine. So I'm trying to think of who they're playing. Let's see if I have it in my notes. Like if maybe I have an opponent with them. I might have a Zay Jones note here. Oh, everything. They're playing Baltimore. I would probably, even though I don't like Fields in this matchup, maybe Murray gets some garbage time though. I mean, out of these 3, Murray may have the best floor because he's probably gonna run for 35 yards, 40 yards. Fields is your boom bust. I don't like Lawrence in the Baltimore matchup. I think this one's gonna be too much to overcome for him. Charlene, thank you. I always appreciate you. Have a great weekend. I have a great weekend. It's not your weekend, it's my weekend, but thank you. And I know that everybody else's weekend, Saturday and Sunday, but thank you for noting that. Uncle Ted, Zach Moss, right now, well, Breece Hall. I mean, the receptions are back. And that's huge. He gets a ton of targets. And Zach Moss, look, he had a great matchup last week. So, and he played great for 4 games last season, and he played great. And then 2 weeks ago was a tougher matchup. Right now I'm going to say Breece Hall. I mean, at this point, Zach Moss got to reestablish and show me something here, right? You have buys for winning your leagues. Good job, Uncle Ted. And then finally, Randy, and then we'll get out of here. Your core receivers have been Tyreek, Keenan, and Nico. Oh, man. Nico, I don't know what his status is. We won't know that for a while, but when you get ruled out after 3 steps of the calf, makes me worry for the next one. Hopefully Tyreek's ankle's fine. He's played through a lot of dinged up, and he's not much of a problem. Randy, in terms of waiver wire, you got to give me something that's out there. Drop me a DM on the X. And anybody out there, give me a follow on the X at Jim Coventry NFL. You can connect with me there. If you aren't verified and you can't message me through a DM, you can always tag me on a post. And I can follow you that way. If you need me to follow you to have that happen, that's fine. Hey, everybody, I appreciate you. Your time is valuable, and you hung out with me. Thank you. Randy, you're welcome. Appreciate you making me part of your fantasy football routine. You have no idea how much it means to me. Without you, I'm nothing at this job. So thank you. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I'll be back Friday with Adam Thompson of Bookies, Saturday with John Ryan of the Predictive Playbook, and then Sunday, the Start System. Sirius XM will be on the weekends. If you have that, it's Fantasy Sports Channel 87, 1 to 3 Eastern on Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. And for that, everybody, again, enjoy your day, and I will talk to you soon.